This is Movies, a podcast about the act of cinema, and with me today, in what looks like Arkham Asylum, is Hans. Hans, how are you doing? Welcome back to the show, Hans. You took a little vacation from the program.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about Asian people, and then you make me talk about Asian people now on this.
Well, you watched a bunch of Asian movies. I mean, this wasn't even really
Yes.
going to be a program we were going to do, at least for now. But I guess it kind of makes sense given that we're going to cover Decision to Leave, excuse me, the new Park Chan-wook film that was only released in Korea. And then you decided to venture into the back catalog of Park Chan-wook films. This episode is brought to you by Red Bull. By the way, Red Bull gives you wings.
Is that sugar free?
That's sugar free. I can't have sugar. So why do you wanted to get into Old Boy tonight? Why?
Did I?
You
I
said
mean,
this was your
yes, yeah,
idea.
yes, because it's very good. I still haven't seen that trilogy, but I think this is the only one of the three that I've seen multiple times. I might have seen what's it called, Mister Something Vengeance? No, that's Lady Vengeance.
No, you're right. There's sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and then there is also sympathy for Lady Vengeance.
Okay. I
But
think I've
that's
seen the
just
first. I might have seen the first, but it's been a while. When I was in college, I went through a run of just a lot of both Asian horror and just Asian movies, and I think that was one of them, but they all kind of blend together those years.
yeah. I think I was introduced to Old Boy around 2005, 2006. I mentioned this on the last show, but it was around the time that I realized you could very easily place orders from Amazon.com and get interesting movies that way. So I had gotten a like a bootleg Chinese version of Old Boy that had like a printed up copy paper cover art and like a very cheaply done disc art, and that was my introduction to that movie.
Is that the DVDs they sell on the street?
Yeah,
And someone just packed it up? Oh, cool.
hmm
So it's just a very flimsy, thin plastic case.
exactly. Yeah, and I got it I think for like 15 or 16 bucks. And prior to that, as far as like Asian films went or Asian cinema went, I grew up with the Godzilla movies,
Mm.
obviously. But then I had gotten into Battle Royale, got exposed to Tartan DVD that way. I think we might have talked about Tartan a little bit when we were talking about Audition last year, when we were covering that and Battle Royale for the show.
I don't remember. You want to freshen up my memory?
They were just kind of like a niche DVD
Fresh.
distributor back in the.
Sorry, is that a saying? Freshen up my that's not is refresh my memory,
Let's
right?
refresh your
I'm
memory.
extra foreign today. I apologize. Freshen up my memory. Sorry, go on.
They were just a niche distributor for DVDs, not dissimilar to Arrow or Vinegar Syndrome, but they specialized in uh, weird Asian movies. And then at a certain point, they ran out of weird Asian movies to put out and tried to market, like they started falsely marketing foreign films as within that category or that genre of movie making. And they eventually lost their customer base because of that, because it was a little too spread out. So that was like an early aughts. I'd say up until about 2011 or 2012, they were still active. Relic of physical media.
Do you own any of them still?
Yeah, I still got my original Battle Royale DVD, but also I think they might have put out a couple of Blu-rays prior to Arrow picking up the distribution because I did have a Mr. Vengeance Blu-ray that I believe they put out. They might have just put out the entire Park Chan-wook Vengeance trilogy as well. So those are still out there. You can still find them pretty easily. But I did upgrade and get myself a 4K Arrow Blu-ray of Old Boy here, which is packed with special features. It was not released in the U.S. as far as I know, but every single 4K disc is region free. So that's a neat little trick. If there's a movie that gets a 4K release, let's say in France, well, you can buy it and you can probably watch it on your 4K Blu-ray player if you decide to pick it up. That's not
That
the case with Blu-ray.
that wasn't with DVD, you mean? Or
Or
no?
no, 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 with
Does
Blu-ray
Blu-ray
too.
also have? Oh. That's just in the States, right? That restriction?
No, I mean, with DVD, you had Region 1, which was exclusively North America, and Region 2 was parts of Europe, and then Region 3, I think, might have been Australia. And then with Blu ray, Region 1 was America and Asia, and
Mm,
Region 2 or Region B, whatever, was going to be Europe. So it kind of narrowed down a little bit for Blu-ray, and now with 4K, it's like, well, what's the point? Why are you going to region code it? The only
right,
people buying this are collectors anyway. So the market has shrunk so much that it doesn't make sense to incentivize it because different distribution rights for international Blu-rays makes no sense now.
right. And that version that you have there, where is that from? That the cover is on funny
Well,
writing.
this is so Arrow has a thing, and I used to criticize, and I still will criticize Arrow's horrible illustrated covers.
Oh
Their
yeah,
JSA cover is pretty terrible too.
yeah.
But the one thing that they do that I really appreciate is that it's reversible.
Hmm.
So you can just flip it inside out, and they'll give you the original poster. Right now, it still has their shitty, fruity little rainbow barcode at the bottom here. I'm
Wow.
not a fan of that. I don't like the fact that it says Arrow Video. But as far as this movie goes, you cannot pick up a better copy than the Arrow 4K Blu-ray release of Oldboy. It might also have the documentary Old Days, which is they go back to the locations where they shot Oldboy, something like 15 years after the fact, and bring the actors out there and just talk about what it was like shooting the movie. And there's a lot of behind the scenes footage. There's different commentary tracks on the Blu-ray with Park Chan-wook, so you get a separate set of subtitles for that
Right, I
essentially.
was gonna ask, yeah, how do they
Hmm.
do that? So it's just what a different color. So you got two sets of subtitles, like when I
Yeah.
watch movies in those Saudi Arabian websites.
Well, hey, that was the problem with Decision to Leave. Whenever the woman would speak Chinese, you'd have the Korean subtitles over her, and then the English subtitles that were on top of the Korean subtitles. It was fucking
See,
obnoxious.
the version I got only had one set of subtitles, and I think it wasn't translated properly because a lot of the time it seemed like an Asian person translated it to like bad English. So a lot of the
Hmm.
time I was just trying to figure out what they were trying to say, and I couldn't tell if the dialogue was just kind of dull or if they just didn't know how to translate it.
That happens. Well, I don't even really know if Decision to Leave is out on like streaming in Korea or something. I don't know
Mm.
how this came out so early. It was only released in theaters in June, and it has yet to be announced for theatrical screening or online distribution in America yet. So I don't know. Uh,
Since I missed that episode, what you gave it? Oh no, that's coming after this one, right?
no, 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 no. I mean, it would make sense. What we'll probably do is if we talk about enough of Park Chan-wook's movies, we'll do a compendium like how we did the Batman episode and how we'll
Okay.
eventually do the M. Night Shyamalan. I don't really think we're going to go back to that. I don't know. I have Wide Awake, the Rosie O'Donnell one, still saved on here, but I have no interest in getting back to M. Night at this time.
Is that
Um,
his first movie that you sent me? I think I downloaded that on my computer a long
yeah.
time ago, and I just
Yep. Me
I
too.
didn't know
Didn't
Rosie was the
didn't didn't even
star.
open it. She is. Yeah.
Is it Rosie playing the character from Riding the Bus with My Sister?
God, don't I wish that would
Yes.
be a good compendium too. Is Wide Awake and right, people. I'll just include that as a special feature, 2 hour special feature. Yeah. So, all right. So, how did you become aware of Old Boy? Because this movie had a reputation, I think, among film nerds, film snobs, around the time that it was released. And I remember hearing about it probably in like 2004, 2005, like literally right after it came
Mm,
out in theaters in Korea. Um, Talk of the ending and how shocking it is, or whatever,
right.
was definitely something that was gone on about.
Yeah, I think it was in school because I wasn't really exposed to or wasn't that much of a movie nerd, I guess, at the time. As you know, as we've discussed before, I used to collect Rough Schneider DVDs and
Hmm.
that type of early 2000s comedy. So I wasn't very much into real movies, I guess you can call them. But a class in college made me just watch a lot of classics, and for whatever reason, that one was in one of the lists for Asian cinema, and it's just great. I think. It's what like two it's like 210, right? The length of it, like 2 hours and something, and it's just relentless. Like it's both though, and even though I missed the episode for that movie, I didn't really care much for Decision to Leave. And rewatching this, which I did today, it's kind of more disappointing than it was when I watched it and I didn't have the old boy memory so fresh, because this one, even though I did enjoy some of the editing and some of the shots on Decision to Leave, it's very dull compared. And I mean, the story is like it's like a romantic ish love story compared to this one, which is, I guess you could also say it's kind of a romantic story, just taking the turn for the worst. But just the way that it's shot, it's so dynamic with everything he does. The camera, I don't think it ever stops moving, and if it does, it's very purposeful with what it's trying to do. The transitions, I noticed this time more than before because I was paying more attention. I don't know. It's just I can see why he's considered, one of the greats. Because just the craftsmanship that this movie has is really impressive.
Yeah, that is another thing about Decision to Leave that I also, similar to you, found myself disappointed with, is that it just didn't pack the same punch as Old Boy. It seemed, I don't want to say it seemed styleless, because he was certainly creative with the camera choices, but
Yeah.
there's a certain visual texture that is found within this movie and a lot of his earlier films that movie was just lacking. And I don't even know why it was, because if you look at The Handmaiden, I feel like that still has plenty of
Oh yeah.
visual flair to every single frame that you see in the movie. This one felt very stripped down. Did you also notice all the product placement that was in Decision to
Yeah.
Leave? The iPhone 13 was all over the place. And this bothered me. And I thought, am I just noticing this because I know he was paid earlier in the year to go shoot a short film with the iPhone 13?
Mm.
Which he had done once before. There's a short film, I think, on like Tubi or something now. It was called Night Fishing. It was released in theaters in Korea. It's only about 30 minutes. It's got one of his go to actors in that film. And it was shot with the brand new iPhone 4. And that movie also has plenty of texture to it. It looks kind of horrible at points, but it looks interesting, you know? And he did one that was kind of like a period piece released earlier this year. And I didn't find that interesting or entertaining at all. And it had a very kind of bland, surface level, like color tone and everything else, not dissimilar to this movie, Decision to Leave. My biggest problem with Decision to Leave was the fact that all of the ideas and the tropes that he's dealing with in that movie, he did better in all of his earlier movies,
Mm.
including Old Boy. But I think it really overlapped most with Thirst, the vampire movie. I don't. Have you seen Thirst before?
No, not yet.
I
I
think
have it in my list. I just haven't.
it's one of his better ones. When we get around to that, that'll probably be a treat, or from what I can remember anyway. And also Stoker, which I think is a lesser film of his, and still, I think that movie feels more fulfilling than what Decision to Leave came up with. Now, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, see, with Old Boy, I don't notice the length because there's so many things happening story-wise and visually speaking in every scene that you're just glued to the screen. The decision to leave, there was times where I was just, or it got to a point where it just lost me, and I was like, I really don't care what happens. Like it's whatever, it's fine. It was, I feel like it was very repetitive too with things. So like something would happen, and then, oh no, who did it? Oh, this person did it. Oh, I'm a cop, so she can do it. And that happened like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times throughout the movie. So by the third time, I was like, all right, like anything else? Like, are you just gonna continue doing this? And I was waiting for that twist at the end or something, and then it just ended, and I was like, oh well, this is a mid movie from him, which is still better than most movies that come out, but it was kind of disappointing, especially after The Handmaiden, which I thought was visually really impressive too, and story wise. But yeah, it kind of felt like when they bring an Asian director to direct American movies, and they're just like, oh, well, I can see his skill, but it just for whatever reason doesn't work.
Were you by any chance familiar with the Old Boy manga that this movie is based on?
Yeah, I've seen some of it. Why?
Well, we're going to be talking about Old Boy tonight. I
Right.
think it's pertinent. I haven't read any of it. I just know that he has a giant potato nose in that
Yeah.
manga. Has a ridiculous looking nose. Can we just pull that out?
Pull
He
it
looks like
up.
one of those monkeys with, that big floppy sausage size. There you go. All right, maybe I embellished it a little bit. Maybe I
No, you didn't.
misremembered it.
No,
He's
you
got a
didn't. Look
schnoz.
at
Wow, what a cool guy. Okay, I
Well,
have
everyone
yeah.
has a schnoz apparently. It's just like it's an artist decision.
This is a Japanese manga, and it's I don't know. I think it's interesting that the Japanese and Koreans are rivals in life, and they got to adapting Old Boy before anyone Japanese. I think it probably would have been a piece of shit movie if someone Japanese had helmed it first.
It could definitely not make it better. And I think Spike Lee proved that 10 years later or
Well,
11 years later.
we'll get into that. It was 10 years. It was 10 years to the day, and we're about to get 10 years to the day of that next year. They are restoring Old Boy to put out in theaters next year, and they're doing that throughout Western cinemas.
What, the Spike Lee one?
Yeah, they should do that too. No, they listen. There's some things to talk about with that Spike Lee version. I have a. We'll save that. Let's table that for now. There's a lot there. What do you think about this actor Choi Min Sik? We were talking a little bit on I think the Angst episode we recorded about how he is the Matt Damon of Korea
Hmm.
because
Yeah,
he's Goodwill Hunting in Korea.
he's very, very expressive. And I think he's very good at staying within the lines of over the top and cartoony and not crossing over that. I in this rewatch, I realized how close the story of this character is to the um, much beloved Squid Game's main character story, at least from at the beginning, where he's calling his daughter right on the phone.
Mm.
It's her birthday, and he has a present for her, but he's kind of a mess and a drunk that's been arrested. The biggest difference, well, with along with everything that happens in the story, that character was very cartoony to me. That character was a little bit more difficult to believe that he would have gone through everything he went through and then end up the way he ended up with that pink hair. This character, the change that he goes throughout the movie after being put in pretty much solitary confinement for 15 years makes more sense to me. And they did such a great job at setting everything up that was going to happen later. So the training, the TV he watched and everything that affected him in those 15 years, he used all of those elements with everything he did outside. So everything had like a little setup that you don't really think about because you're just seeing a guy, isolated in what looks like a hotel room. But then at the end, they all end up becoming part of the story or part of who he is, not just he sat there and he was traumatized for a little bit and now let's forget about that. It's like a factor that it's important for the rest of the story, and I also really like how that rounded up at the end with the dog thing. It's a very humiliating
Mm.
ending for him. And if you go a little bit into the what the Squid Game character is, it's like it kind of starts similar, where he's just a kind of a loser, kind of a mess, kind of a trying to be a good dad but doesn't know how. And then just everything that happens is it's a lot more. I don't want to say over the top because after everything that happens to the old boy character, it's difficult to say that it's hard to believe, but I feel like his transformation into what ended up happening at the end doesn't fit as well as it does with this character in Oldboy.
Well, I also don't think there's as dramatic of a transformation between that protagonist in Squid Game and what happens to Odesu in Old Boy, because he becomes a completely different person basically within like 30 minutes of the film, and
Yeah.
then by the end of the film, there's a bit of a retraction from that into his previous self, but altered. Yeah, and I don't know. Have you gone back to Squid Game since it
No.
came out? I've been curious to check it out and see if I like it as much now that we actually have some like good movies and
Yeah.
well, not really TV shows, but we've got some good movies to hold in context as opposed to Squid Game came out I think in September 2021. That was
Yeah.
a pretty
Nothing. Yeah.
it was we were still getting back. It wasn't as bad as 2020, but it was definitely not all that well rounded as far as media content went.
Do
And I'm
you
also, yeah.
do you think it would have been as big as it was if we were in all stock?
Well, we weren't really. I mean, I guess it depends on what state you were in at
Yeah.
that time, right? Maybe not. I think that the audience certainly would have fractured a bit, and people who maybe weren't as open to checking out a show completely done in Korean probably wouldn't have given it a look.
Right.
But I still think it would have been a thing. I think it would have been critically well received.
So what you're saying is that if we were in lockdown during COVID, then they probably wouldn't have Funko Pops right now.
Exactly. That's probably a good assumption to make.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't like it that much to begin with. I think it was kind of like a 3 out of 5 for me. Especially I really didn't like how it ended. And I'm not really looking forward to the new one, which I'm sure we're gonna have to do just because of the I guess pop culture knowledge of what happens. But
Well, hold on. What did you not like about the ending?
the main character, I never liked him throughout the story. I just thought he was an annoying loser. So
Hmm.
I was like, I don't want him to win. And then at the end, he wins, and then he becomes whatever that is at the end. I don't know.
See,
When he could,
I didn't mind that because all right, if Squid Game, and I probably said this, you can probably go back to our Squid Game episode with Dakota Proctor, and I will probably have said verbatim what I'm about to say. If Squid Game had been made in America, the ending would not have been, as far as his victory goes, spoilers for those who didn't watch Squid Game and were intending on it. The main character wins the Squid Game. Wow, what a surprise.
surprise.
If this was an American production, he would not have won it. The girl would have won it, and he would have had a noble,
Yeah.
dignified death at the end of it.
Or a pretend death that is revealed at the end that he's not dead, like the
Right,
old man.
because they would have season two in mind. They would be
Yeah.
thinking, all right, well, we have to have him come back for the next season, and there will be
Yeah.
like a little, teaser that maybe he's alive, maybe he's dead, and of course he's going to be alive.
Yeah.
I thought the ending was very satisfying because it did play it straight, and it didn't really seem like it was too hung up on that next season or whatever the series was going to be because they weren't precious with their characters. They killed off so many good characters, so many well-rounded characters, even like midway through the series. So I didn't mind that, and I thought, all right, well, if this is going to be our guy, fine. That's fair enough. The old guy being like a Jigsaw style
Yeah.
villain. Anyone who is well versed on media got a sense that there was something going on with his character from the get go.
Yeah.
I didn't really mind that too much, but I don't know. I don't have too many complaints about that. I'm not interested really in seeing a season two because I think they can only ruin it and spoil what was good about it. And even if they decide to have it take place in the past with that famous actor they got involved, what was he? He was in like The Man from Nowhere, or maybe he was in I Saw the Devil. Was he the guy in that movie?
Oh, the detective?
Not the detective, the guy who was running the Squid Game. The detective died,
Ah, that's
didn't
true.
he?
See, I don't even. That's how great my memory is.
The detective, I think, was looking for his older brother, right? And his older brother turned out to be the guy running the Squid Game.
Right. Yeah. What's his name? Uh, Lee Byung-hun.
Oh, I thought it was Patrick Duffy from television's Step by Step,
I
America's favorite TV series.
is he still alive? Patrick
I'm
Duffy?
sure he's fine. I'm sure he's doing well.
Should they search what he looks like now, just like I did with Helen Hunt?
Yeah, he could be a
Uh,
good old boy, Odesu, Patrick Duffy. And it turns out the twist is he's fucking the daughter from Step by Step.
which one?
I
Do you
don't which
remember?
who's the best looking one.
I don't remember. It was three of them, wasn't
They
it?
were children, Hans. You shouldn't be thinking about children that way.
Don't set me up like that. You're tricking me, you trickster. He
That was
looks
my
alright.
nickname back in high school, is the trickster,
He,
because I look like Mark Hamill.
I'm like,
Yeah.
he looks alright, but can we? And I hope this is. I'm not being like mean, but
Is that his wife? Is that his
I
son?
I don't know. There's something wrong with that boy.
It looks like Booger from Revenge of the Nerds. Fuck. He looks like a puppet. Looks like a marionette.
Jesus
What's
Christ.
going on
Yeah,
with her face?
I don't know. She's Stains or that's his wife,
Uh,
I'm sure.
his
Partner. Sorry,
partner?
my bad.
Business partner? Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, Patrick Duffy, new old boy. That's who is who would you have chosen to remake Old Boy?
For
That
a
wasn't Spike
director?
Lee. Yeah. Let's say the Spike Lee remake didn't exist, and you were in charge of whatever company made it. I don't remember. They were like, all right, you have to hire a director to bring this one of the most famous, most celebrated Korean movies of all time, make it American now. So
Hmm.
you can't
Okay.
say like people that were still good, I don't know, 10 years ago and not doing anything now. It has to be someone modern.
Has to be somebody modern, huh?
Yeah.
Let me get back to you on that. Do you have an answer?
Tarantino. I just
Ooh.
I'm just saying that just because of that comment that I just remember someone made on our video about how Jordan Peele is kind of a hack. And I think we couldn't think of anyone, and we just said Tarantino, and someone in the comments was like, "Oh, why guys Tarantino? He's the only one that exists." Blah blah blah, whatever. I'm just like, guys, I just have a bad memory. I just couldn't think of anyone.
After the whole, so the we put up a Jordan Peele clip, and we will have Wolfman. Were we supposed to have Wolfman tonight?
No, I
Oh,
thought no for
oh no,
real,
no, no. That
wasn't
was
it?
that's Thursday. It got moved.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Phew. We're gonna have. We're not gonna have Jordan Peele on here. We're gonna have Detective Wolf, a bigger name, Detective Wolfman, will be joining us to talk about Nope, which you fell asleep in the middle of. What
Yeah.
about Jordan Peele directing Old Boy? Hmm.
How do you think he would change it? There would be no incest, I'm sure.
No, I think I think he would do all the same things as Spike Lee did. Make the same mistakes, but in a different way. But anyway, my
Oh,
point was, we put up a clip of the Jordan Peele show that you're now referencing that got a bunch of flack and got passed around Facebook, and people had a problem with that. And then when the Mass State Lottery trailer dropped, I got a comment in the comment section that came up. I think it got spam filtered out. It said, "Hey, this trailer looks cool, but you're a fucking racist piece of shit." So
just like, all right. I hope you still watch.
thanks
Whatever,
for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing.
whatever you feel
So,
about me, that's fine. Just watch it.
and I was the most generous to Jordan Peele on that entire panel. That was all you and Wolfman with the
I don't
slurs.
I don't know what you mean. I don't remember. It never happened. I have a
I
very
don't know.
selective memory for the bad things I say. I didn't even say anything bad. I just
No, nobody actually said anything bad on
no.
that, but you know how reactive people get. If you say anything that decries the legend of Jordan Peele,
Yeah.
well, it can only be motivated by one thing.
They were calling me racist and they called me white.
Called you white
It's like,
boy.
what the hell?
Shut up, you
Listen,
cracker ass bitch.
that's yeah. I'm just like, what? Okay, I'm over here. Not even. It's just you guys. I don't even know if Wolfman's.
No, I don't
Uh,
know where you heard Wolfman was a POC. Wolfman, I've been told Wolfman looks like Tom Selleck.
right. I'm sure. I'm sure he does. Yeah. That's why he hides his face. Yeah. No, I think it was Cisco who told me that. He's probably intoxicated or something.
Of course he was. How's about, I don't want to say Safdie brothers, but I feel like they could pull it off.
How about you?
How about me?
Yeah.
Uh,
Would you
yeah, I would
dare
do it. I would do it.
uh,
Of course I would.
just
Someone
let
offers you Old Boy, you're going to say no to Old Boy? Spielberg said yes to Old Boy. So,
oh,
yeah.
I don't
Listen,
imagine what that would look like.
all right, well, here's the big thing. I haven't ever thought about who should be a good American director for that film. My only thought was I think Gary Oldman would be perfect as the Odesu character.
I think if it was a Steven Spielberg movie, he probably would have gotten um, Ty Sheridan to play the.
That's David Gordon Green's Old Boy.
Yeah. What is the? I'm so separated from everything that or anything that Spielberg has done since. Wow, Minority Report. No, Catch Me If You Can was probably
You
the
would have
last.
Ansel Elgort as Old Boy, Michael Mann's Old Boy.
Uh,
That would
yeah,
not be
I
good, but it would be interesting.
would be better than Spielberg's Old Boy.
I'm trying to peek at my Blu-ray shelf and just come up with directors' names from here because
Abel
I'm blanking.
Ferrara's Old Boy is hornier
Oh God,
somehow.
that sounds like it would be good in the '80s. I don't think it would be now. Paul Schrader's Old Boy, Tim Burton's Old
Tim
Boy,
Burton's Old Boy. The,
James Gunn's Old Boy.
uh, the
Why not?
jokes. Oh, what am I here? Oh, I'm by myself. Oh, it's Robin Williams. I'm
Yeah.
I'm alone in a in a hotel. It's not really a hotel. What is yeah, Spielberg? I don't know. I appreciate what he did in the 80s, in 90s. I just like is anyone still excited about going to see a Steven Spielberg movie in 2022?
I've seen a lot of people post and they went to go see a Steven Spielberg movie this week in the theater.
Joss?
Jaws in IMAX.
That sounds I don't know how I feel about that. Was it all just stretched up? How
I
did
don't
they do
know.
that with the film? Because I'm sure you can do whatever with the film prints, but I mean, I
It
guess the
depends on what the master is. If it's 2K, then it probably doesn't look amazing. It's not taking up the entire IMAX screen, I'll
right.
tell you that right now. Even if it's 4K, it's not. If it's one of these like IMAX at your local AMC theater screens, then my guess is it probably looks a fair chunk better than whatever you're going to see that's going to be screened in DCP or whatever the hell that format is that's digital. But I don't think it's going to be that big of an improvement. I think it's just a spectacle of, hey, we can see Jaws in the theater.
Yeah, that I guess that would make it worth it. I saw it at a beach, and that was terrible because the sound was horrible.
Yeah.
Uh,
Outdoor screenings are never good. It's
yeah.
always like a cool idea in theory. Like, oh, we can go to the park or a rooftop or something. We'll go see Bugsy Malone.
They
And
just
then it sucks.
they just expect you to be drunk, I think, so you don't
Right.
mind as much. Kind of like the drive-in. I drive-ins are cool in theory, but then you go and then the speaker that they put next to your window is so shitty and small and sounds like crap
Hmm.
and the screen is really far away or just doesn't look right because it's not lit properly. I feel the same way about yeah, outdoor screenings. They have a uh like an outdoor theater here that I've been wanting to check out, but now that I think about it, it's probably yeah, probably not gonna be
Probably fucking
the
sucks.
best.
You should never go to
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's what I think. Martin
It's someone's
Scorsese's Old Boy
someone's backyard.
with DiCaprio as Old Boy.
Mm, I don't know. I don't know. No, with De Niro playing Old Boy, but
They're
his
both Old
face,
Boy. That's the
but
time that
his
passes.
but his face is digitally adjusted, so he looks younger and his body's still old. So then you have that fighting scene in the alley, and it's just
It would be like a PlayStation 2 game.
just very old. Given those fuck, what is the Netflix movie with the kicks that are very funny?
Bird Box.
Yes, when he's kicking the bird box with his little legs. Uh, just that, but kicking a bunch of Asian people in a hallway. with
You
his
know who
young
could do
face
that
and all
fight
body.
scene, that fight sequence masterfully and even better than Park Chan-wook? Zack Snyder. That's
Yeah.
who.
Yes. Didn't you see it on Deadpool? They did it better there. I
Deadpool.
remember people. No,
I
not
haven't.
Deadpool. Daredevil.
Daredevil. Which
Remember
one?
Daredevil, the first season did a scene that was very similar,
An
and a lot of people,
homage?
yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of people were saying, "Oh, it's better than the." It's like
No.
it was well done, but
It was
settle down.
fine. They were cheating it because he was going in and out of doors and
Yeah,
whatever, which means you can cut. And they didn't cut with this. They maybe did like a seamless something. I don't know. I think it was all one take.
it looks it.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like there's any tricks, like you just
There's
said. When
no
all of a
Birdman
sudden,
trickery in this movie where
yeah,
they fade in, fade out carefully.
it's like, oh, we're staring at a wall for 2 seconds. That's odd. This one shot.
So this is a great movie. I think that this might be one of my top 10 or 15 favorite movies of all time. Perhaps I think there's definitely a an argument to be made that it might be the best Korean film, or certainly one of the top 5 Korean films. I don't think people are talking about Korean cinema without this movie coming along. Because what was really going on prior to this film? Memories of Murder was maybe the same year, and I don't think people were talking about that in the same way that they were discussing Oldboy. Oldboy's ending made it more of a cultural
Yeah.
talking point among film nerds.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not, again, at the time when this came out, I was a young lad that
No, you weren't.
enjoyed Rob Schneider and Seth Rogen movies.
What is Rob
Uh,
Schneider's best movie?
Starring,
Yes, his
oh,
movie that he starred in. That's a Rob Schneider vehicle.
Stan, the guy that goes to jail. I don't think that's the name of the
What?
movie. It's called what or some didn't he make a movie where he goes to jail or something? It was when he was still trying to make comedies in like 2010 and nobody cared. Big
No,
Stan. Are you
Big
not familiar with
Stan.
Big Stan?
No, never heard of Big Stan. Let me. Can I see the cover art to this thing? If I went to Blockbuster in 2010, what am I looking at on the shelf? Oh,
2007's Big Stan, where he
6.1 IMDb rating. That's very generous. That's more than the Lord of the. They got David Carradine,
yep, before he hilariously died.
Sally Kirkland,
Scott
Richard
Wilson.
Kind. Wow.
Yeah, it's a good
Emmett
cast.
Walsh. They got Emmett
Richard
Walsh.
How do you say his name? Riley, Randy Couture. Jeff Leave wrote it. Oh, he directed it. That's very good. I've never seen this movie, by the way. I just remember the cover. I remember seeing the DVD, and it was like, oh, well, it's a movie about a little guy getting, you know what, in jail. Uh, this is the
He's been in the
writer
news
for.
lately. Have you heard Rob Schneider's making waves with SNL saying, oh, they'll never come back now. They'll
Oh
never
yeah,
rebound after the Hillary Clinton piano. Yeah, you waited fucking what, 7 years?
it's a very original talking point from 2016. That's
Hmm.
very good.
You know
Um,
why that is? I think he's going to get signed to a Daily Wire show soon.
are they making shows or like a podcast? They're gonna give him a podcast where he talks politics.
I'm gonna break a scoop that has nothing to do with that right now
Okay.
because I didn't do that on the last show. But here's a little scoop. Here's something I've heard. This is another one. I don't know. It might be out there already. I heard that they're courting Nick Pizzolatto for a Western show called The Grass Rifles.
How do you feel about that?
I don't really care. I don't give. I don't. I'm over westerns. I mean, westerns as a genre are big right now, but it's kind of tapped out because nobody's done it well. I mean, I guess people really love Yellowstone, but I couldn't really
Do
get into
they
that
though?
show.
Do
Yeah,
they? Or is that one of those things where it's like, well, it's right wing, so we have to like it?
but it's not. Kevin Costner was on the set saying, "I love Liz Cheney." He had a
Oh
shirt that
yeah.
said, "I heart Liz Cheney." I sent that to Cisco, and he didn't reply back to me.
He stopped talking to you.
That was the last
But
time I spoke to him.
he's like, why are you photoshopping this for me? You're trying to upset me.
He would never
Uh
wear this.
no, but that's how it's marketed though, right?
Yeah.
it's like, it's blue collar, he's got a farm and horses, so
Hmm.
Americana, right?
Yeah.
So I feel
So
like there's a segment of the population that has to like it or thinks that has they have to say that they like it just for that reason alone.
getting back to old. Oh, here's the other scoop. Here's the other scoop. This has nothing to do with anything. Maybe it goes along with the Zack Snyder talk I was getting into before. So we did an episode. I did an episode. You weren't there. You weren't co-host yet on Spawn, the 1997 film. Were you co-host on that?
I don't think so, no.
I think you were a guest on that show.
Was I?
Yeah, we did 2 hours on Spawn, and it got cut up into two parts. Here's what I've heard because I had, we were talking about Joker Folly Ado with Mumkey Jones and with Kino not long ago for the show that was on Space Cop, which apparently the people on Mumkey Jones's YouTube channel are not don't give a fuck what any of us think about Space Cop. I couldn't believe that this is like the dud of an episode for Is It Kino. Hardly any views or comments on that one. Very unlike Mumkey Jones's channel. So damn, that's unfortunate. But here's what I've heard. I've gotten intel that there is a Spawn movie that is indeed coming, even though we haven't heard anything about it. Last thing we heard was that Jamie Foxx was cast as Spawn and Todd McFarlane was going to direct it. And he was writing the script, and he had written like 20 scripts over 25 years of what this Spawn reboot, sequel, whatever it might be, is. I have heard that within the past couple of years, since Joker, basically, Todd Phillips and whoever Todd Phillips' writing partner is on that film Joker are involved with Spawn and are shepherding that now with Todd McFarlane and with Jamie Foxx. So those are the people that are working on that movie at this time. I don't think anywhere is talking about this at the moment, so hopefully my source doesn't get mad at me for spilling the beans on this. I don't even know if we'll post this as like a clip. But that's what's happening right now. And I wanted to get your reaction to that, Hans.
Well, uh, that Spawn movie is a piece of shit, but it's an enjoyable piece of shit because of how much of a piece of shit it is.
The 97 one.
Yeah. I was just looking up Todd whatever, to see if he's written anything that's been turned into a movie, and everything is just, he created Spawn, he created Venom, and that's it. So
I've also heard he's taking over DC Comics.
that would be cool.
That with the Discovery merger, they want
Mm.
him to start printing their comic books.
Just turn it into late 90s or 90s MTV animation.
I
That'd be
think it
cool.
could be interesting if he's at the
Yeah.
helm of that. And I don't hate this Todd Phillips, and the other guy's name isn't coming to mind at the moment, unfortunately. I don't mind them being involved with that Spawn movie at all. I think that's probably only going to help the end quality as opposed to an unproven Todd McFarlane at the helm as director by himself.
Is it Scott Silver?
I believe so. It might be.
He did 8 Mile, The Fighter, Finest Hours, and Joker. Mod Squad. Um, I want to see what they do with this Spawn movie. I feel like now you have the technology where you're able to maybe those do something that doesn't look like a PlayStation 1 game, and that's being generous.
Well, it will
Uh,
in 20 years. I mean,
right.
at the time that Spawn
Yeah.
movie came out, that was cutting edge special effects.
Oof. Yeah. Should I pull something up from that movie?
Yeah, go ahead. Have at it.
What's the monster called? The monster that's in hell?
Violet. Malbosia
Oh, right. I'm gonna
is
need to
the
spell it
devil,
for
but you might be thinking about Violator. Violator is what clown turns. They should just get John Leguizamo back. Who are you
well, it's
casting as the clown in 2022?
someone fat, so he's not stealing the
Josh
fat
Gad.
palace. Yeah,
All right, let's take a look at this.
here it
Ooh,
is.
ooh, that was yeah. This
Yeah.
is the part of the movie that held up the least. Is it literally looks like the opening to a PlayStation 1 game It is terrible. And they like cloned Spawn over and over and over. I think there was like 100, 1,000, 2,000, 5 million spawns in hell that all look the same and were doing like the
Oh,
same
yeah, yeah.
repetitive actions, you know? Anyway, that'll be
Yeah,
great.
this one, this is what you're talking about?
Yes, that would be
Horrible.
it.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't revisited this movie since we did that episode, which I was apparently a guest on that I don't remember. For obvious reasons, I think this is not one of those enjoyable 90s superhero movies like, well, Blade. I was trying to think of
Have you
which.
gone back to Blade?
No, and
Me either.
I think it's probably for the best. I can imagine the little quips and the little very 90s dialogue that it probably has where I'll probably hate it. So I'd rather keep it at that. Just as I'm not interested in whatever they're doing with the new PG-13 Blade
Aren't
with
they?
Marshall
Maybe
Ali, I think it
maybe
was.
this was like a troll article or something, but I read it's being called The Blade.
No. Really?
Yeah. I might be checking out The Crow. I haven't watched The Crow in a long period of time, but I was in the mood to give it another look because the older guy that's in Nope that abruptly kills himself for no reason,
Spoilers.
yeah, is the main bad guy from The Crow with Brandon Lee. So also that's an Alex Proyas movie,
Hmm.
and he is chock full of stuff. Maybe he should do the Old Boy American remake, Take Two.
How many Crow movies are there?
Too many. Eddie Furlong was in The Crow
Was
as
it?
The Crow.
No way.
Yes, in I think the second or third one.
Oh, why is this in Spanish? Uh,
Because
I
you're in a
hate,
Spanish
dude,
country.
I hate that so much because it doesn't matter how many times I set the settings in English. Every time I open a new tab, every result's in Spanish, and they're never helpful because they don't have the same information. Uh, should we do oof, I'm afraid of saying this.
If you're going to say a Crow retrospective, I have listen. I haven't seen any of the sequels. I've hardly seen the first movie. I don't know anything about the comic book. I know more about like the onset accidental death more than
Yeah,
anything else as far as the Crow goes. But maybe,
there's four movies:
and they're remaking it.
Crow's City of Angels, The Crow's Stairway to Heaven. Oh no, wait, that was a 1998 Canadian television series
Yep.
starring Mark Dacascos.
Mm-hmm.
So he's Asian. We also mentioned him on that episode that we did on with Wolfman on The Keep. Remember?
That's right.
There's The
Well,
Crow's Salvation, which with
was that the one with Edward Furlong? One of them is the guy from the first Paul Thomas Anderson Resident Evil film, and sorry, Paul W. S. Anderson Resident Evil film, and the other was Eddie Furlong.
no, that's the fourth one. That's called The Crow Wicked Prayer.
That sounds
So,
perfect for
so
Edward Furlong.
stars Tara Reid and David Boreanaz.
Wow, what year is that?
2005.
Okay, so they were both down on their luck in 2005 because they aged out of doing teen movies and TV shows.
Oh, jeez. Okay, let me just share
That's
this.
the same year as Batman Begins. So this is what Batman Begins competition was in 2005 for superhero movies.
This is like Lords of Chaos.
Oh, hey, well, you know what? He wasn't fat or that fat
You
yet.
know,
He's losing his neck a little bit. His jawline's disappearing. But
but he just looks like a goth high schooler. That's not very threatening looking, you know. This is not instilling fear on anyone. They just like, yeah.
yeah, that's rough. That's Brian Peppers.
I want to see. Oh, there's David, looking chunky,
Yeah, he looks like beefy, but not in a healthy way.
and then
Okay.
Tara Reid. We should do that one. We should. I wonder if it's bad enough for a Civic TV episode.
I bet you it is. I bet you it's horrible. I just watched all the American Pie theatrical films recently, and Tara Reid is in 3 out of 4 of those.
The
And
what?
by
The
the
what
by
movies?
the American Pie film
Oh yeah,
series, not
yeah.
the direct to DVD, Bandcamp, and all those horrible. Wow, 0% for The Crow with Edward Furlong.
Oh no,
Fred Topple says, "Well, it's better than Crow 3." They got Dennis Hopper for this movie.
Dennis Hopper. You got Danny Trejo.
Whew. Okay. Um, Macy Gray. Macy Gray's in the movie.
We should. I need to download this one.
I think
See if
that
I
is
can
a
even find it.
big time Civic TV season 3 pick right there. We got to get back to Oldboy so we can kibosh this episode and get into Oldboy 2013. So I want to also talk about some of the other actors that are in this film. Most notably, the man who plays the antagonist. I think that guy is terrific in his role in this movie, and I also think that the girl who plays his love interest, her character name is escaping me at the moment.
Mito.
Yes, very kind of predictable in that kind of character, also good. But one of my favorite side characters in this film, who pops up in a lot of Park Chan-wook's movies and got in trouble. He got Me Too'd. That happened in Korea as well. He got Me Too'd. Is a dude who has his mouth all fucked up. And he's got a disgusting big black mole that's like right here on his face, right above his lip, in his
Kind of
mustache
like
line.
this gigantic Jake-like pimple that I have going on right now. This is what happens when I talk shit. You know, I mentioned
Hey.
it, what, 2 episodes ago? I
Yeah.
think you mentioned
I
my,
brought it up, yeah, that
yeah.
you badmouth Jake's
I was shaming him to his
face.
face about his gigantic pimple, and then 2 days ago I woke up and I had this on my face. I'm like, I'm 36 years old. What the
You're
hell?
lucky that your camera is
Yeah,
not good quality because you can't really see it.
yeah,
But
good.
maybe in the
Well,
edit, I'll just zoom in, so that's what's the only thing in focus.
great. I
It's
don't know if
just that.
you noticed at the beginning, but when my screen was very dark, you couldn't see it there.
There you go.
It's not
Just
there
just
anymore.
stay away from the
Don't
camera.
move. Yeah, it's pretty horrible. My
No, you
girlfriend
should.
was like, "Should I put some makeup on it?" I was like, "No, that's worse because if LowRes finds out that I'm wearing makeup to record this because of my pimple, that's never gonna,
Well, it would
never
be
gonna let
good
it
if you
go."
had like a camera that was as high definition as my camera is, because then we would see the makeup and you would just look like you have a lump on your face. And it
Yeah,
wouldn't even look like a pimple. It just looked like a boulder. Like you have to go see
okay.
Dr. Pimple Popper. She's going to
That's
extract
right.
something like a lipoma or whatever the fuck from your
That's what
face.
this is, I think.
Oh,
Just
Jesus.
spaghetti, just squeeze spaghetti out of it.
Hmm.
What's the mole guy? Doesn't even have a
Just type in
picture.
mole guy. Find out. Let's see. He got in trouble kind of recently. And he doesn't pop up in. And this was another problem of mine with Decision to Leave. You don't have any of his regular cast of characters in that film. The only person who is really one of his holdovers is dead at the beginning of that movie, and it's the bodyguard from this movie. The gray-haired
Hmm.
bodyguard of the antagonist in the film is the husband that the female lead kills off, and you only know that because he's the lock screen photograph posing with her.
Oh, right. Mr. Han in the
Hmm.
movie. Wait, is it? Because it's not in his IMDb.
It's not. Maybe it was just a photo then. Maybe he
Maybe it's
wasn't like the
just,
dead body because I don't think you see the dead body's face, but he's the guy on the lock screen.
or maybe just that comment on YouTube was right.
Yeah, maybe it was just racist.
Maybe you just think they all look the same. Yeah, no, it's none of his credits. I don't know. The last movie he made is called Okay, Madam from 2020, playing a congressman. Oh,
The Me Too guy with the lump on his face.
no,
The
the
bodyguard.
bodyguard. Yeah.
Kevin
I still
Costner.
I still don't know what the other guy's name is because all the names are Korean and all the character names are also Korean. So it doesn't say mole guy. And they don't have pictures. So that guy, he was very good, very disgusting. Uh, have
But
you
anyway,
seen?
the point I did want to get at real quick about Decision to Leave, not even Old Boy, they have the guy who is the person who is suspected of being a serial killer from Memories of Murder as the protagonist in Decision to Leave. I found that guy remarkably uncharismatic compared to certainly Choi Min-sik as Odesu in this film, and then probably any other Park Chan-wook movie uh, where it's an assortment of characters, but he just was a charisma vacuum. He was like a sad sack of a cat, which fits what he was going for, but he didn't really bring anything else to that to keep you locked in on his character between those moments where he was caught between a rock and a hard place.
Wait, that's the guy from Squid Game?
Who? No, no, no,
The,
not Squid. I said Memories of Murder.
no, but you said is the main character on Decision to Leave.
Yes,
That's him, isn't
he's
it?
on Squid Game as well.
Oh no, never mind. I don't know why he's top billed over here. He was just like you said, just like a sad sack that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really want to root for. He was kind of just a very pathetic character that I don't know. I guess that was one of the biggest issues that I don't care what happens to him, and I don't care that he's putting all those people in peril just because he's horny for this lady. It's like, all right, what else are we gonna get from this? And yeah, I found it very difficult to connect with anything that was happening other than some of the visuals from it.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you something. How many of Park Chan Wook's movies do you think you've seen, just off the top of your head? You've seen this one. You saw Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. You saw The
Yeah.
Handmaiden, Decision
Yep.
to Leave.
Yeah, I've seen let me see. Snowpiercer, was that him?
He produced that movie. That was a
Okay.
Bong Joon-ho film, though.
I've seen Stoker. I've
Hmm.
seen I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay.
You've
That
seen
was
most of them. You've seen all of them except for a couple.
yeah. I still haven't seen Joint Security Area. I have it, but I haven't.
Hmm.
Uh don't know what 60 Seconds of Solitude in Year Zero.
I think that's a documentary short he did for an anthology, and he also did a short for Three Extremes, and there was another one, also another anthology, a horror anthology, where I caught his
If You Were Me.
contribution. What's that?
If You Were Me.
It might have been that.
Korean
Yeah,
most acclaimed filmmakers explore the nature of discrimination in this provocative anthology. That's
I
probably
think it.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's what I saw.
Uh, have you seen The Little Drummer Girl?
You know what? Plain Archive just announced that they're going to release the director's cut Blu-ray of that, and I watched the first episode of it. It has Florence
Yeah.
Pugh, Jerry's favorite, and Michael Shannon and Alexander Skarsgård. And I thought the first episode of that show was well. I thought he directed the actors better than he did in Stoker, based
Mm.
off the one episode. But I haven't seen the entire series. It didn't really hold my attention. I'm not like a big fan of John Le Carre. I don't know. I will get around to watching it because I'm gonna buy that set. I will eventually get around to watching it
Do
and
you
seeing
think
what it's
do
about.
you do you think Stoker is like that because of his inability to direct English speaking actors, or because I remember that when it came out, there was this narrative online about how no, they're acting like that on purpose. Like it's supposed to be like weird characters that are acting weird because the story is weird, and then you see it and it's kind of like I don't know, it just kind of looks like they're just doing what they want to do.
I think it's both. I think he had it in his head that he wanted them to perform in a certain way where it's probably better if you're going to do like the stilted kind of weirdo characters. It comes across maybe a little more natural when you're dealing with the Korean actor, if you're a Korean director, because you can tailor that to their communicative sensibilities.
Right.
And having not directed real English speaking actors before, because there are some English speaking actors that come up in JSA and in Lady Vengeance, but they're horrible. They're terrible actors. Because if you watch any, we've said this before, if you watch any
Mhm.
Korean film and there's English speaking actors in it and they're not famous and they're just locals, they're going to be fucking horrendous. They're going to be
Yeah.
the worst actors you see in a real movie that's probably decent. And with Stoker, I do think it was just like a learning curve and having a person in between who's going to translate for him
Yeah.
to give that direction. So I
That
can
was
only
one of the
imagine how difficult that is. But
that was one of the
no,
things on Squid Game that I really hated. It's like that
there
it
you go.
took
Yes, those
it took
actors were horrible, and they take you
horrendous.
right out of the series.
It's like how can you be bad at acting when we can't even see your face? Like even the way that they would deliver the lines was bad, and they could have been fixed in post, I guess, by just doing just the audio. But if you can't really tell because they speak a different language, then I guess that's what comes out. And that really took me out of that episode. So it was just like, just don't talk, just don't have any American talk. This is terrible. All the very um acting school deliveries that they were giving. And yeah, like you said, every time you watch anything that's Asian has an English speaking actor and the director is Asian, and it's gonna take it away from it.
Yeah, and I don't think that's something you run into when you're watching French movies or Russian movies that have English speaking actors at all. It seems like it's exclusively Asian films, I guess because there's just very little overlap there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they reminded me of, I already said PlayStation, but it really was like when you're playing a PlayStation 2 game and they have voiceover actors
Yeah.
that are really hamming it up even when they don't need to. It was like that. Um,
Or like when if you listen to Squid Game with the dub, that's what everyone sounds like.
mm,
That's every time there's a dubbing, it's always just not great actors delivering dialogue that just sounds odd.
of course. Do you think that this movie has the best cinematography of his films?
The ones I've seen at least. Oh,
I
I
think it
think
at
that
least has maybe the best visual style.
yeah, yeah, and the texture that this movie has too. I don't know if it was because of the way that it was shot, but it's very gritty and dirty when it needs to be. And then the scenes where he is in the bad guy's apartment, everything is very pristine and clean looking. So there's a big difference there of the I guess visual uh texture. I really like the handmaiden the way it's shot. I think the cinematography there is great. But at least from the ones that I've seen after rewatching Oldboy today, it's yeah, every shot has its purpose, and you can tell that he's crafted every single scene to perfection almost. So I would say that, yeah.
What you just said there made me realize I think what my biggest problem with Decision to Leave was, and maybe why it felt a little more stripped down compared to his other films. And I think it's because, especially with Old Boy, you notice that there is a very strong sense of set dressing, of wanting the locations to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And with Decision to Leave, it just kind of felt like a modern, slightly westernized Korea,
Hmm.
where people's living spaces were kind of empty. The outdoor locations were a little too spacious and they weren't particularly visually distinct. I don't know. It was kind of like he slacked as far as that went, and it felt very director for hire.
Yeah.
But
Very sanitized. Very that police station too. It just looked like a police station.
yeah,
It didn't have anything special about it. It. I don't even know if it felt like it was set in Korea. I mean, I guess it does, but there wasn't anything like visually interesting or specific to that area
hmm
of the world where you could tell that immediately is that, which just added to the dullness of it and how it, at least to me, it felt like it was missing that Park Chung-wook craft a little
yeah.
bit,
And I think you visit somewhere like Korea, and what you notice is
which
that
you have, right?
everything, yeah, of
Right.
course, and everything is like 20 years behind. Same thing, kind of, with Japan, in terms of style or just like the general setting of things. Everything's obviously up to date, but the sort of matters of convenience
Hmm.
aren't as focused in on. And so you have a lot of things that are inconvenient, but they're like physical flourishments of a given location. Payphones, the way the subways look,
Yeah.
certain shops, certain stores, places you can hang out.
Vending machines on the street.
Yeah, something as simple as that. That's a very like easy go-to thing you can point out, like things that people take for granted and weeded out here
Yeah.
in the West are still plenty active over in Japan because there is a mentality there that keeps the elder population in mind in their lack of ability to adapt to whatever the quicker thing is. So they're not as fast to push that away And because of that, you go to one of these places and it kind of feels like you're visiting 1997. You're visiting
Yeah.
2003. So
Yeah, you
um,
walk to the restaurant, you don't get DoorDash sent to your
yeah,
home.
I did it. You know, I did get like a DoorDash thing in Korea, and the dude brought me real plates and silverware, and you had to leave it outside, and he would go and pick it up the next day. So that's how Korea is.
Yeah, they trust you to not steal that and sell it for crack.
All right, where else can we go with Old Boy before we get into the 2013 Spike Lee remake?
Um, it's a classic that should have never been remade and probably should. Oh,
Oh,
that was the cat. And should never be remade again. I think it's one of those movies that should just be left to be what it is. And what can you think of another movie that's like that where well, I guess a lot of the old ones where it's just untouchable, where it's just like this should never be remade, other than like what's the one that everyone says the
Casablanca,
right Casablanca or the
The Godfather,
yeah
Fear City,
uh what is the Rosebud movie? I'm so bad with my fucking memory.
Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner. Every Kevin Costner film, we all agree as a people, should never be remade.
Bull Durham should
That's
never
right.
be remade. That's the first Kevin Costner movie I think.
Um,
Yeah, if you've never watched Old Boy, if you're not familiar with Korean cinema, that's probably a great. Oh, I don't know if that's a great movie to start because then you're starting at the top.
yeah,
So maybe watch a couple of other Park Chan-wook movies first, and then get to Old Boy because, like you said, it's probably the best Korean movie ever made. And should have never been given to Spike Lee. And yeah, it's one of the highest recommends I've given in this show, I think, if you haven't seen it.
I think it's pretty close to a perfect movie. It is a masterpiece. It's very difficult to top if you're Park Chan Wook. At the time, this was his fourth film because he directed The Moon is the Sun's Dream in 1992. Trio came out in the mid 90s. JSA, Mr. Yeah, this is his fifth film. And everything after is good. And I think you can see him kind of crystallize what his style from this period is. And it trickles some of that greatness from this movie. You see trickles into Lady Vengeance, which is the follow up to this movie. Has a lot in common. It uses some of the same cast members and spins Choi Min Sik, the lead of this film, into the villain of that movie. And
Don't spoil it.
well, I mean, I
It's
didn't say
been
what he
what?
does or anything, but
It's only been 20, 20 years almost. Yeah, 18 years, 19 years.
so I agree. I think this is the best entry point someone can make in terms of trying to get into Korean film, and at the same time, yeah, you're not going to find anything better than Old Boy. Probably. I don't know. There's a lot of movies out there. Memories of Murder is certainly up there. Um,
I Saw the Devil's one of my favorites. Not his, but
yeah.
Korean, right? That's Korean.
Well, my thing with I Saw the Devil is as good as that is, and I think it's perfectly very good movie. It's at times a little cartoonish for my
Mm.
liking because
The
it goes
violence.
into yeah. So the thing about that movie is it goes from like this is a crime thriller, this is like Michael Mann, this is Manhunter or whatever, and then you get into like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 territory a bit, and
And
it's
then
like well,
Choi Min Sik just being goofy, but also a creep.
yeah, you have like serial killer best friends who do
Yeah,
like, and it's just like, all right, what is this? And then you hop out of that, and it goes right back to gritty, hard boiled crime movie. So
pretty
I don't know.
vengeance movie.
It's a
Yeah.
little wishy washy as far as that goes. As far as consistency goes. All right, yeah, Old Boy, great movie. Check it out if you haven't seen Old Boy. 2003, not 2013, and we're gonna get into the follow up, the highly awaited follow up, 10 years after. How about that? All right, that has been movies for this week. Please join us for the next episode. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, this is going to be a Patreon exclusive. So go sign up at patreon.com/lowres, and we will see you in the $5 tier.